All right, let's talk about a big one. Today, we're unpacking a long-awaited update from AWS that finally solves one of the most common and, let's be real, most annoying headaches for developers, naming an S3 bucket. If you've ever pulled your hair out because a perfect name was already taken, yeah, this one's for you. So to really get why this new feature is such a game changer, we've got to start with the problem. And I mean, it's a problem that literally anyone who's ever touched AWS knows all too well. You know that feeling, right? You've got your project all mapped out, you've picked the perfect, clean, simple name for your bucket, you go to the console, you type it in, you hit create, and then, boom, you get that message. Yep, that one. That simple, soul-crushing message. So you try again. My app data? Nope, taken. Project assets alpha? Also gone. And before you know it, you're smashing keys and end up with something like customer dashboard reports US East 1 verse 2 final for real this time 2024, and somehow that's still taken. It's maddening.
And look, it's not just you or me. This is a shared pain. As this quote from Developers.io says, it's a common S3 experience. It's basically a rite of passage for every AWS developer. The frustration is so real, and it's something the whole community has been dealing with for years.
So what was the reason for all this madness? Well, it all came down to the fact that the S3 namespace was completely global. I mean, every single bucket across every single AWS account in the entire world had to have a name no one else was using. This is what led to those crazy long bucket names and, more seriously, a security problem called bucket squatting, where someone could snag a bucket name they think you're going to need just to cause trouble. But that all changed. Not too long ago, AWS finally announced a simple, really elegant solution that honestly developers have been begging for years. They call it the account-regional namespace, and the best way to think about it is like your own private, reserved neighborhood of S3 names. It's your turf. Within that space, you are guaranteed that the bucket name prefix you want, it's always going to be available for you. No more fighting for names.
Okay, so how did they actually pull this off? I mean, did they have to tear down the entire global system S3 is built on? Nope. Instead, they built this really clever, super predictable system right on top of what was already there. And the formula is beautifully simple. Check it out. First, you start with the name you actually want, like my bucket. Then AWS just tacks on your unique 12-digit account ID, then the region code, and then it finishes with this special reserved suffix, -an. So, okay, yeah, the final name is still kind of long, but, and this is the important part, it's now 100% predictable. And that predictability is what creates your protected space. No one else on Earth can create a bucket that looks like this, because it's tied to your account ID. It's your namespace. Now, here's a really important thing to get right. This isn't a separate namespace. S3 bucket names are still globally unique under the hood. The big change is that you now have a reserved chunk within that giant global namespace that only your account can touch. It's a subtle difference, but it's the key to how this whole thing works. And the magic ingredient that makes this all possible? It's that AN suffix. AWS has basically put a reserved sign on any bucket name ending in AN, so you just can't create a regular global bucket with that ending anymore. And that's what prevents any conflicts. It's the lock on the door to your private namespace. All right, so this all sounds great, but how do you actually start using it? Well, the good news is AWS made it super simple, whether you're clicking around in the console or scripting with the CLI. Okay, if you're in the web console, it's literally the new default. It's the recommended option right at the top. You just choose that, type in the prefix you want, say my logs, and that's it. The console does all the heavy lifting, adding your account ID, region, and that special suffix for you. Super easy.
Now, for all of you who live in the terminal, you can use the CLI, of course. There's a new -bucket namespace flag. The only little catch here is you have to build the full name yourself. Prefix, account ID, region, the whole thing. The CLI isn't going to auto-complete it for you. So just keep that in mind.
And for everyone managing their infrastructure as code, which is the best way to do it, CloudFormation has the most elegant solution of all. You just use a property called bucket name prefix, give it your short name, and boom. CloudFormation figures out the rest and builds the full correct name for you. For automation, this is absolutely the way to go.
Okay, so after all those technical details, let's just zoom out a bit. What are the big wins here? Why does this actually matter so much for developers and companies?
Well, it really boils down to this. First, your bucket names are now predictable. You know what they're going to be. Second, those annoying naming conflicts, they're just gone. Third, writing automation scripts for multiple regions just got way, way simpler. Fourth, that security risk of bucket squatting is officially dead. Fifth, you can now enforce a consistent naming standard with policies. And maybe the best part of all, this doesn't cost a single extra penny. And I love this comment from a Reddit user because it just hits the nail on the head. It's about more than just convenience. They called the old system a security footgun, which is, yeah, that's perfect. By tying names to an account, this new approach just cleanly wipes out an entire class of security vulnerabilities. And here's a final, really powerful tip, especially for anyone in cloud security or governance. You can actually enforce this new standard across your entire organization. There's a new condition key you can use in your IAM or service control policies to basically say, hey, from now on, all new buckets must use this safer, more consistent naming model. It's a huge win for governance. Which brings us to a final big picture question. S3 is one of the oldest, most foundational services at AWS. Now that it has this super clean, account-scoped naming model, you gotta wonder, right? Is this the new standard? Are we going to see this pattern of predictable, conflict-free names start rolling out to other AWS resources? It sure feels like a very logical and very welcome next step.